So, how you doing? I'm doing pretty good. You're probably wondering why I'm wearing my do-rag right now when I'm making a video, and the answer to that is because I just got a fresh palm roll, right? So my hair is kind of fresh. I just wanted to put the do-rag on just to kind of tame it down a little bit, give it a little compression. And it actually got me thinking, because, you know, if you've been following my channel for a while now, you would know that I go with the interlock method. And you know what? Before I get into all that, my name's Joseph Morrison, aka Kojo Locs, coming to you all with another video. If this is your first time coming to my channel, welcome. This is a lock channel where we discuss locks and lock content. And if you're coming back, you know what's up. Kojo Lock gang signs. Gang of love. So, as I was saying, you know, I got my retwist, or I got my palm roll done today, right? A fresh palm roll. So everything's looking fresh. And I just thought, you know, people are probably wondering, like, if you've ever wondered as a starter locker, should you go with an interlock or should you go with a palm roll method? What's the difference? And you probably know what the difference is. You've probably seen that the palm rolling is just a twist and the interlocking is kind of a locking method. But you might be wondering, like I was, like, what's the difference? How do I make my decision? What things should I base my decision off of? What's the benefits? What's the downsides? All that stuff, right? So I figured, you know, since I have done a retightening with interlocks and I've now done the palm roll, I just figured, you know what? People are probably wondering why someone would do that. So I figured, let's discuss it. Let's discuss the pros, the cons, the ups, the downs, all the good sides, all the bad sides of why you would get an interlock, why you get a palm roll. Let's just jump right into it. Just to start out, if you're unaware what the differences are between an interlock and a palm roll, I'll give you a basic overview of both of them. So, palm rolling or cone coiling is pretty much when you take your hair, right? You take a parted section and all you're doing is you're rolling that section, right? And just making it really tight. So you're taking a gel or a wax and you're rolling that parted section with your palm. Then you're taking a clip, you're gonna clip that hair, and then you're gonna let it sit, and then that will hold and hopefully begin the locking process for you. And when you go back to get your retwist, you're essentially just retwisting whatever new growth that you've acquired since starting your initial palm rolling session, right? So that's kind of the palm rolling method. Interlocking method is a little bit more technical. It's a little bit less user-friendly for just like a beginner person. Palm rolling is a little bit easier. It's kind of easy to figure out, but interlocking is very, very specific to how you do it. You have to make sure you do it properly. And what that is essentially is you're taking a parted section of hair. At the end of the hair, you're taking the end, so like the tip, and you're essentially putting it through. This is gonna be a hard description. So essentially you're bringing that palm through, or you're bringing that tip of the hair through where the root is, out through the other side, then you're going through the other way, then you're going through the third way, and then you're going through the last way. So you're going 4 directions through the root, and what that's gonna do is gonna give you obviously a hold, but it basically kind of gives you like a knot, right? And that's where the interlocking name comes from. Essentially you're putting a lock on the hair or a knot at the root of the hair, and essentially that gives you a better hold. So in comparison, the interlocking method is going to be a tighter hold for you. You can wash your hair more freely, and we'll get into the specifics of all that, but that's basically what the differences are in the methods. So in this video I thought I'd talk about a couple things and compare and contrast the two. One thing we're going to discuss is your washing process. What are the benefits to washing your hair with interlocks or with the cone coiling method? We'll also discuss things you might need to know just in terms of your scalp and your hair, in terms of considering which method to go with. You know, looking at how frequently you're looking to wash your hair or how infrequently you're looking to wash your hair. Looking at your hair texture. What hair textures are better with which method? I said that wrong like 6 times and I had to edit it and you didn't see that. What hair textures are better with method? What hair just things like that. So I just figured we'd jump right in. What? Yeah, I mean, I was gonna save it for like the lock update video, but you really, you wanna see it right now? Alright. Let's take a look at my hair, since you had to interrupt me in the middle of my speech. Let's do it. Let's go, come on. Get up, let's go for a walk. Alright, so normally I'd have help with this, but my wife is busy. So it's just me and you. We're gonna be in here. So let's take this off, let's see what it looks like. To be honest, I barely even looked at it myself. I literally just got it done, got my line up, and then drove home, wrapped it up. I'll show you what the 360 would look like just like fresh out of the do-rag. So pretty much she went through with the palm rolling method. this is the first time I've ever done a palm roll. Prior to this, I've done interlocking on my hair twice. So I had my initial interlocking session, and then 2 months after that, I had a follow-up retightening or another interlocking session. And then this time when I went 2 months after my initial interlocking session to get a retightening interlocking session. And since then, it's been 6 weeks, so a month and a half since then. So I went back to get what I thought we were gonna do, like another interlock, but she suggested doing palm roll because the amount of new growth that I had wasn't really enough to get a full lock, and I'll explain all that stuff later. So we went with the palm rolling method, which I was kind of excited about because I had never, done that before. So I just thought it would have been a cool new thing. So yeah, this is pretty much it. I mean, I don't know how well you can see it. She kind of leaned it to one side to give your boy a little bit of a style here. Nice. I'm cool with it, something different, but definitely a lot more length. I shouldn't say a lot, but there's more length for sure because she obviously did get all my new growth and palm rolled it, right? So a lot of new growth compared to what my length was prior to this. And I like the look, it feels fresh. And one of the benefits to doing it is just simply, getting all those loose hairs that start to frizz out, getting them back in those parted sections, and making sure that everything's where it needs to be. So that's pretty much what the palm roll looks like. Feeling good, feeling fresh. Now let's sit down, let's talk about these topics, shall we? All right, you happy now? Yeah, you got what you wanted? What do you think? You think it looks fresh? I actually really like it. I think it's cool. I like how she kind of shifted it to one side. Anyway, I could do this later. Let's stay focused. All right, so the first thing I want to jump into is pretty much talking about your hair type and your hair texture in regards to what option you're gonna pick. So if you have a looser hair type similar to mine, so I have about a 2C hair texture, so it's a little bit more wavy as opposed to being really coily, right? So if you have a wavier hair texture, doing the palm rolling or the comb coil method is a little bit harder for your hair to actually stay locked or want to get locked because your hair is not really coily, right? So obviously you can imagine the coilier your hair is, the easier it is for it to want to kind of stay together and get knotted up and start to bud. And the wavier your hair is, or the straighter your hair is, it's just harder to do. So that's why for me, and trust me, I'm speaking from experience, having done the comb coil method twice before, when I wanted to start my locking process, it didn't work, it didn't hold. I coiled my hair, I waited a month the first time before I even washed my hair. And then went back to get my retwist, she washed my hair, poof, all came out. Tried it again, said nope, not going out like that, not going out like that. Tried it again, waited a month and a half before I washed my hair this time. Went back, poof. And this is with 2C hair texture. So, I found that I then had to go with the interlocking method, and it's been a dream ever since. So if you do kind of have your mind set on one method, don't be too gung-ho about it. Trust me, I was pretty disappointed when I wasn't able to do my comb coils, but I'm happy with my interlocks, and my locks are coming in pretty nicely, I think. So that's one thing to consider. Hair texture does depend on what method you're gonna go with, so keep that in mind. And then obviously if your hair is a lot coilier, so if you have a 4C or closer to a 4C, really coily hair texture, you can definitely go with the palm rolling method or the comb coil method. But you can also go with the interlock method if you just prefer to go that route. So you just have a lot more options when you do have a coilier or a more 4C hair texture. So next thing we'll talk about is washing your hair. Which method is best? Now, most people who are starting on their starter lock process, in their minds, they're thinking they're trying to push it as long as they can without washing their hair. That's what people typically think, which is, yeah, that's what you would do. Now, there are situations where if you do have scalp issues or you're easily susceptible to getting buildup, it's probably in your best interest to wash your hair when those issues occur. So let's say after a week and a half, you have so much buildup in your head or your scalp is on fire to the point where, you need to wash your hair. If you have a wavier hair texture like I did, and you have to wash your hair after a week and a half, as I just discussed, it's probably gonna come out. So if you have the interlocking method though, it's a lot harder for it to come out because your hair is basically knotted at the root. It's easier for you to wash your hair. And when I first got my interlocks, I was washing my hair every 5 days and it stayed in. Whereas when I had the comb coil method, Even after a month and a half it came out, and that was just my case. So, you know, obviously with the interlocking method, you have a lot more flexibility to washing your hair, which means you can maintain a cleaner scalp without question. And that's obviously, you know, monumentally important. It's very important you have a clean scalp in order to have clean and healthy locks going down the road. If you're somebody who can kind of push it and you don't really have scalp issues, or, you know, maybe you're not sweating a lot, you're not working out a lot, you're not getting a lot of buildup, then yeah, for sure you can go with the comb coil method, and hopefully that will work for you. Also, if you're somebody who has a tighter hair texture and you're going with that comb coil method, great. Now in regards to washing, you're gonna wanna push that wash as far as you can to allow the hair to start to bud and lock up and things like that. So basically, the basic difference between the two of them, if your hair is interlocked, you can wash your hair pretty much whenever you want. Whereas if your hair is comb coiled, you know, you want to be a little bit more selective when you wash your hair, really only when you absolutely need to. And I would try to push it a little bit farther if you can. Another thing to consider is the length of your hair. So if you're starting with really short hair like I did, now here's the thing. When you're starting your locks, you obviously want to have enough hair that you can start your process. If you have like a low cut or something like that, you're dumb. You can't start your hair like that, right? It's pretty obvious. But you want to have, what's recommended is at least 6 inches of length, which is, you know, that'll give you a lot of options in terms of how you want to start your locking process. You're not going to really have any issues as long as you stick with the methods that you're supposed to be doing. If you have anything shorter than 6 inches, that's where it gets a little bit more, or can get a little bit more tumultuous in terms of really looking at your hair texture type and looking at what type of locks you want to start with, whether it be interlocks or comb coils. So I'm gonna break it down for you. If you have less than 6 inches like I did, and you have a wavier hair texture like I did, you would want to go with the interlocking method because it's going to be easier for your hair to stay locked and go into the locking process and start to bud and things like that. If your hair is short and really wavy and you want to do comb coils, the length of your hair makes it hard for it to want to stay together. Because remember, when you start your process, your hair wants to come apart. It's not used to being coiled up like that. So naturally it wants to come apart. Now, the shorter the amount of hair that you have, let's say coiled up in your comb coil, it's easier for the hair to come undone because there's less hair coiled up. If you have, let's say 10 inches of hair and you start with that, then yeah, it's gonna be easier for that hair to stay together because there's a lot more length to the hair that you actually have coiled up. Does that make sense? I hope so. So essentially, what I'm saying is hair length is really key. The shorter your hair is, then you know you're probably better off starting with the interlocking method because that's going to ensure that your hair stays locked. If your hair is longer, you have a lot more flexibility where you can go interlocks, you can go comb coils, whatever you want pretty much. And in conjunction to that, again, thinking about your hair texture. So short hair with wavier or looser hair texture, I would probably most definitely say start with interlocks. And look, if you start with interlocks, down the road, once your hair starts to bud and lock up like mine, you can go with the comb coiling method, which I did literally 2 hours ago. And you know, it's looking good because my hair's already started to lock up. Now I can just go in and do my comb coil because my hair is already starting to bud. So I'm only really worrying about the roots when I go in to do my comb coils now. Another thing to think about as well is, let's say you already have your starter locks, they're already in, and you're thinking about going back to do either a retwist or to do a retightening or re-interlocking. Now, the way that you can kind of decipher those two is really simple. Pretty much if you have a certain amount of new growth, then you can go in and do an interlock. So usually the rule of thumb is if you can get 1 full finger, and you can't do it now because I just got it twisted, but let's say I can get 1 full finger into where my new growth is. So let's say under here where it's just all loose natural hair, and I can get my full finger in it at least, I would say 1 to 2 fingers. Then you can go ahead and interlock. If you have less than that much hair in new growth at the roots, you're just gonna wanna probably go in with a palm roll because in order to interlock, you need a certain amount of hair to actually get the hair to go through that new growth, right? Does that make sense? Whereas obviously with the palm rolling method, you're just rolling that new growth with gel or wax, whatever you prefer. Definitely go with the gel, don't use wax. You know, it's all about the new growth in terms of how you're gonna go in to do your interlock or your comb coil. And that's pretty much it. So just to wrap it up, you know, I would just say in terms of your starter locking process, initially I really thought that I was going to start with the comb coil method and that's what I was going to go forward with, and that was it, and I was happy. But really, you just got to go with what works for your hair and what works for your scalp. Now, when your hair, you're considering your hair length, you're considering your hair texture, and obviously with your scalp, you're considering how often you need to wash your scalp if you have any issues. Those are really the three things that you're considering when you're deciding what method to start with. And also understand, like, there are people out there that have beautiful interlocks and people that have started with beautiful comb coils. So don't fall too deeply in love with starting with one particular method. Take it from me, I never thought I was going to interlock my hair. I thought I was going to do comb coils, and I don't know, I love my locks. I love how they look right now. Obviously I just got a fresh comb coil, so like, yeah, like I'm actually pretty in love with it. But seriously though, like, you know, I actually like my interlocks, and I always thought it was going to look like, I always thought interlocks were gonna kind of look almost like a bunch of bumps.
What?
You know what I mean? I don't know why, but they don't. You know, you are making those knots at the root, but once that hair starts to grow out, the hair still frizzes and folds around it and makes buds, right? So it's not gonna look weird. You just gotta go with whatever locking method works for your scalp, your hair texture, and whatever hair length you're starting with, and run with it. And for me, I found it really helpful to have a loctician in that starter lock process, just to give you that guidance, you know, helping you along so you can send them questions if you have them. Every time they see you, they can give you updates on with their professional opinion. So it's just another insightful, helpful person that's directly looking into your head. Obviously, videos like this on YouTube are helpful and things like that, but at the end of the day, I can't see your hair to tell you what to do. So, you know, it's really helpful to have a loctician that can help you out in that way. But other than that, it really just comes down to you. You know, make a decision of what you want to do, interlock, or if you want to go with the comb coiling method. And yeah, if you have any questions or comments, please let me know. If you do need any further assistance based on the education that I have, I'm glad to share it with you, obviously. So let me know. And yeah, if you have anything that you want to talk to me about or any tips that you want to share with the community, comment down below. Feel free, and please subscribe, like this video, and share it with a friend if you think that it would be helpful for them. But stay locked. Love y'all. Kojo Locs signing out. Peace and love.